so lovely to have you here on our Dunedin Stories podcast.
Thanks, Bex. Lovely to be here.
I'd like to take a moment to share with you the firebrand karakia so we can open with some peace and love in our hearts. Kia tau te Māori, kia tau te mana, e mātou, e tātou katoa, whakapake ai, kia kaha, kia maia, kia mānau anui, hei whakahoho, hei whakitika, humie, huie, taimari kie.
Oh, kia ora, ngā mihi nui kia koe. Bex, yeah.
Rest in peace, Rua McClellan shared that karakia for us and sadly passed away a few weeks ago. But fond memories and joy in my heart when I speak it now. So Dunedin Stories podcast, Debs, we're going to talk all about you and how you became the phenomenal wahine that is before me, off on a big adventure shortly, and a little more about Dunedin and your Ōtepoti Dunedin story. So do you want to start by sharing with the audience who you are and perhaps the organisation that you primarily represent, because you've got a few different hats?
Oh, kia ora koutou, ngā mihi aroha kia koutou, ko Deb Fraser-Komene takawenga, kai te aki whakaata tohu. So I'm Deb Fraser-Komene, and the Director of Mirror Services here in Ōtepoti. Well, in fact, provide services across the Otago Southern District or Southern District. Yeah. Good.
Mirror Services, tell us a little more about what Mirror Services is.
Sure. So Mirror is a child and youth mental health and addiction service, but we have quite a range of contracts. We've got a suite of services that predominantly provide counselling and programs to young people, children and young people who have, I guess a whole range of presenting issues, but mainly access us for counselling and group work, a lot of parental support and family work that goes into that. And we have one of the Prime Ministers back in 2014, a program that came out of the Prime Minister's Mental Health Initiative. It's called a Youth Exemplar Service, which is Mirror HQ, which is a youth addiction service, which is, the first time we've had such a terrific investment into youth alcohol and other drugs, and we have a youth alcohol and drug day program. So that's been a real core part of my work, is developing services in that area for a whole lot of reasons. Yeah.
So you haven't just been doing this overnight. This has been a lifelong journey, really, hasn't it? You want to give us a little bit of insight into how you started, and got to where you are today?
Sure. It's quite a long story, but I'll cut it short. So, I suppose I will start with, in my teens, I had a significant alcohol and drug issue myself, significant trauma that had happened for me, a lot of family challenges that had happened. And so I found myself sort of bouncing from one service to another, or from one courtroom to another. Until I was at a point where I'd probably been skidding along on what was called a rock bottom for a good long time, and I was offered the opportunity once I'd signed up for what did become my second drug reduction program, to go to treatment at a residential placement, which was then open, Queen Mary in Hanna. So it's quite a bumpy journey getting there. There was 6 months waiting list, etc. But, I was able to get the time out of the community and away from everything that was going on, because I was heavily entrenched in the punk scene, heavily entrenched in the skinhead scene. And, it was really incredibly violent. I was with a particularly violent man, so he ended up in prison at that time when I went to treatment, and so I was able to have that space just to work out what was up or down, in a sense, get my feet back on the ground and get clean. And I guess when the fog lifted, I was left with everything that had happened in my life and all that was going on with it at that time. So I really needed the time to work through making sense of a lot of that, working out where I belonged and what I could do from now on. So I really committed to my recovery. and I've stayed clean since then, and that includes alcohol, because people don't realise that alcohol's a drug, right? And then I kept getting asked to get into this work, so my probation officer would ring and say, hey, we've got so-and-so, can you come and talk to them? And I'm like, I'd love to talk to them, but I don't know if I'm trained with the right person to do it. And the same with my alcohol and drug counsellor, and others in the community would reach out to me. And I decided after a little while of this, of just learning how to live without using was a big thing for me at that point. And I got into doing things like riding horses again, working in the local shop, doing gardening, working at Cherry Farm, doing the meal prep, doing the food service there, driving the truck around and delivering the meals in Cherry Farm. I did all this stuff and decided that if I was going to help people, then I needed to get myself trained. So thankfully there was the training incentive allowance at that time. I was able to access that, and I was able to study, and I did an alcohol and drug course in Wellington for 3 months full-time. And I had a 2.5-year-old child at that time, so I was really lucky my family were able to support me with her. And then I came back and committed to a 2.5-year training program, and that gave me the certificate to be an alcohol and drug counsellor. So I felt then that I was more equipped to be able to talk to people, but more so I was able to work in the sector. So it was a little bit like a thread pulling me into the work, even though I was just getting my own shit together, basically. It's like I kept it. People could see that I was able to offer something to others. And so, through my placements, which was with Straight Approach at the time, I then went on and did the Rat Crisis training program, and I was, transitioned into providing counselling there, and the job came up at Mirror, and I thought, I could give that a go. And there was 2 of us that were employed. I was employed as a adolescent counsellor, and we were working with the 8 to 20-year-olds. And I was really excited. It was like this new opportunity, something that I could start with, because there was no one there before we started. The person who had been there had left, so I walked into this place that had, there was nothing, absolutely nothing, and we just built from there. And in 4 years, I was made CEO, which I was like 34.
Wow.
Which is, I couldn't call it a CEO because, I didn't feel like could you really use that title. But I was called a director or a manager, and we landed on a director felt right for a not-for-profit organisation that felt right. And we are now a organisation with 40 plus odd staff across 4 floors and an 8-floor building in a site in Waitari at the moment, which is transitioning to Port Chalmers soon. An office in Oamaru and an office in Invercargill, and we provide counselling in schools to Bluff Primary School, Gore Primary School, Masabara, Tainui, and we travel into Valclutha and do a whole lot of other initiatives in schools through Tuktoru as well. So there's just a whole lot that's been able to be developed under Mirror, and I've been really honoured that it's been on my watch. Actually this week 29 years.
Wow.
In this,
so much to me, especially your guardianship.
Yes, it's been awesome. Yeah.
And such a beautiful story. We often we think the troubles that we've had make us not the right person, but in fact they make us the ideal person, don't they? And I know because I've been at events where you have had people come up to you and say, Debs, thank you so much for what you did. You might not remember me, but you changed my life. And I know that there must be hundreds of those stories. Thank you.
Yeah, it's when I see grandparents bringing their children in that I had worked with them when they were teenagers. It's just like, oh my God. Yeah, it's amazing that they know they've got somewhere which is the right place, but a safe place to bring their moko or their own children. Yeah, so very humbling to cross paths with people I've worked with. It always is incredibly humbling. Yeah.
In Dunedin, Ōtepoti is such a small pond, isn't it? So there's lots of connections and the whole 1 degree of separation and that as well too, isn't there?
Yeah.
in running and leading a not-for-profit in this sector that's very challenging, now, is there people and organisations that have supported you that you'd like to thank at this point in time, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I've had amazing mentors and people around me while I've done this work. And yeah, I always think of John Mills, who was an administrator for the hospital, or the Otago health board. Yeah. Well, I think they were the health boards back in those days. So yeah, so way back. But he was phenomenal. His daughter did student placement with us, and she went home and told him that, she's working for these amazing people, and she wondered whether he could give not just one their microwave to us, but whether he would be treasurer for us, because we were looking for a treasurer on our board at the time. And of course he had all this amazing experience, but he had this incredible business knowledge as well. So not only being part of the healthcare board, he was part of the racing community and had done lots of things for other trusts, etc. So he became my mentor, and he would just, in his own time, meet with me regularly and would receive nothing for it. But he set me a task very early on to do a business plan, and he thought, oh, well, we'll see if she can do this, because it was very early on in my role. And it was, I don't know, it was probably a bit of a test, but he thought, oh, well, I'll give her this task and see what she does. And I came back with this phenomenal plan. He thought it was a phenomenal plan. It was just me doing what I do, putting something together which sort of made sense and outlined what it was that we were doing and where we needed to go. And it was really focusing on diversifying as well, and that we couldn't remain the same. And he was like, right, okay, she is worth investing in. And he also made me promise not to go and work for the hospital system or for government departments. He just said, you won't, you lose a lot of what it is that you are able to bring into this mahi. So
you're a change maker. Can't be done on the inside.
Yeah. So he was phenomenal, and he was really good, and he was just such a quiet, unassuming man. But I mean, he did things like the review of Lake Alice and the big hospitals back in the day. So he was really renowned, but he just quietly, unassumingly got on with what he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to John Mills. Yeah. That's lovely. What a legacy to him. Yeah. Do you think Mirror Services is unique to its outcomes, and obviously having you at the head of it makes a big difference? But is Dunedin unique in delivering these types of services, and how?
Yeah, definitely. And we've had lots of comments over the years that they would like Mirror in other parts of the country. And we have helped some other organisations establish themselves. But Mirror is really unique. We're really grassroots grown, a lot of connections to Ōtako and a lot of key representatives that were part of establishing it. It also did draw on what's called lived experience. It wasn't called that then. It was sort of people with recovery that actually had real experience. And in actual fact, none of my employees knew that I had a recovery background, because I wasn't. I just wanted to get things on my own rock. Without. Yeah. But and I still think about it. Meeting with Judge Rollo, or Peter Rollo, who was he was at one of our earlier chairs, and I've kept in contact with him, and he came back for our 30-year anniversary. But if he doesn't watch this, I'm going to sit down and tell him that story at some point, because he was part of my interview panel. Wow. He's often asked me when we've gone out, he says, do you have a bit of an arm wrestle with alcohol? Is that why you don't drink? And it's like, I've never really said anything, but I just think it's quite cool to be able to say at some point, this is actually where I came from. Yeah. And, it's because of being able to be part of this is, where I've been able to get to has been a huge part of it.
Use that empathy, isn't it?
Yeah.
They do get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a people-based organisation, obviously, and it takes people to support our rangatahi to improve their lives. But is technology helping in some way? Is there positive innovations with regard to how you're delivering the services?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a young organisation, that was quite hard to crack through and to break through and to get that resourcing so we could be, have the IT platforms and the visibility used by IT spaces. So that has been huge, and we've been really lucky with the relationship that we've had here with you guys at Firebrand, and because you've been able to tell our stories, and that's incredibly important these days. Not just having a really easy, accessible website that people can navigate and get to where they need to get to, but also to be able to capture the story of what it is that we do, because we're so into the doing that we forget about telling our story. But I think over the last few years we've certainly got better at that. Yeah.
And the young people accessing the services, are they using more technology-based access?
Yeah, absolutely. So e-therapies have become more accessible, and there's more being developed. There's still got quite a ways to go. And, that can be done in a whole lot of ways. What's been recognised is that those with brief intervention, e-therapies can work well for, but those with more moderate presentations with depression, anxiety, etc., we're having e-therapy alongside one-to-one or face-to-face counselling or group therapy has a better outcome. Yeah. There's a lot of development to be done in that area, and we certainly have a little project going on in that space, where one of our staff has developed a platform for working one-on-one with clients through an e-therapy program, or an online program, live online program.
Because I suppose in some ways, for the older of us, we think it's counter to what we're reading. Social media is bad. They're staring at their phones all the time. We need to get them out in the fresh air or with people. But actually, it's where they feel safe, isn't it? And so delivering a health-based service or a mental health service through a channel or a device that they do trust, you can't say that that's going to be negative.
No.
But there is other ways of developing healthy behaviours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's on their phones. It's not just young people. I mean, that's and it is important to have some good practice with that, and agreements around when use is good or not, and then what it is that's being accessed or not, because we just know that what is accessible online, it is a lot of gearing up for inviting people into not so good behaviour. So understanding that, we want young people to develop critical thinking and to make good decisions that can improve and impact positively on their health. But it's part. We recognise this. I don't know. It feels like 20 years ago that social media, etc., was going to be part of young people's lives and everybody's lives, and if we don't lean into this and work with them with that, then we're just going to draw opposition. You just don't, because we have to be real about things, right? We do. We can't ignore what it is that people are doing. That's what happens and why people end up in therapy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to be real, and there are some not so good sides of it, but that could be happening with other things. So gambling or spending a lot of time gaming, etc. I mean, that is an escapism from what it is that's happening, and I think it's one of those things. But like drugs, the more you do it, the more you need it. So looking at what purpose it's serving and then what is missing out of that person's life is really important, and how they are going to change that lifestyle. Because it's all very well putting down the behaviour, whether that be drugs, gambling or whatever. It's about changing the behaviour that actually makes the change happen.
And we try to run from.
Yeah, that's right. We have to live in the world that it is today and live life on life's terms, basically. Yeah.
Oh, it's not a perfect segue, but it kind of is, because there is so many other opportunities and things to experience in our beautiful wee city, isn't there?
Yep.
And I know that you've got some loves that you have within our city. And so we have a bunch of questions. One of them, I love food. I love restaurants, cafes and things. So I like to hear where other people like to go, because then I can check it out.
Yeah.
So what's your go-to for a lunch with a friend here in Dunedin, Debs?
Yeah, so I do love jitsu. It's just good, real honest food.
You probably see Paul Twemley. It seems like there are a lot to it.
Yeah, it's great, Kai.
Yeah.
I just really enjoy it there. But I also love, lunch at something like number 7 Bell Mac, if someone was from out of town. And
they get a lot of shout-outs to the 7.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, it's like baking, right? They do those beautiful slices.
Everything's beautiful, including the coffee.
Yeah.
What about a lovely nighttime meal with a good friend?
I know my husband loves Plato.
Yes.
So we're a go-to. We actually got, we had our reception there, so it's got some quite special memories.
Yeah.
But, we just went to Golden Harvest, and again, it's just a good, honest meal,
Yeah, we're pretty lucky here, aren't we?
Yeah, we're really spoilt for choice, which is great. Yeah.
What about the calendar event? Something that you make sure that you go to as long as you can, of course. We're told that we're allowed to leave the house every year. That's held in Dunedin.
I love the rhododendron.
The festival.
Yeah.
Festival.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I love going up to the rhododendron Dell and all of those. Yeah, so it's always a good excuse to get up that way.
Yeah. Did you know that goats are allergic to rhododendrons?
I did not know that.
I'm sharing that with you. We learned that when I was 7.
Jeepers.
Yes, and my beautiful Angora baby goat ate a rhododendron plant. And it wasn't pleasant.
No.
Baking soda and water down her throat.
Oh, yeah.
Funny. That's whenever somebody mentions rhododendrons.
And then
the Dunedin legend question. So some people either really struggle with this, or they're like, "Oh, I've got too many."
Yeah.
But who would you like to share an Ocho hot chocolate with? It's a bit of a Dunedin legend. They might have passed away, but
yeah, this is someone that spent a lot of time here in Dunedin and come and went, and they've got a real interesting legacy, and it's really no surprises that I've chosen them, but it might be actually.
Yeah.
And they're pretty renowned, but I actually met them in Waitangi back in 98.
Yeah.
But I followed their journey, and really their concepts and thinking really resonate with me, and it's Lloyd Gearing, and just knowing what he went through and being tried for heresy and all of that, but what he was trying to communicate, I guess if he was trying to communicate that today, that wouldn't be seen as heresy, but it was back then in the church. And I've never been a religious person, but I've we only really lived by spiritual principles, and his teachings have been phenomenal for me and really resonated with me.
Wow.
And he's a prolific writer, but he's still alive at 106.
Jeez.
It's amazing.
Excellent.
But, he spent periods of time here, a lot of time at the university, and different posts for the church as well.
I'd say he's probably pretty proud of the change that's occurred in that time frame too.
Yeah, I'd say so. Some things have changed and some still need to, right?
That is very true. Yes, I'm very much glass half full, especially when I'm on camera. Debs, if you had the power to change something in Dunedin particularly that you think would have a great impact on the community or yourself or somebody else, what would that be?
It's there's a lot of sort of small things to come to mind, but I would love us to have a more inclusive of those that don't do so well, a society that was more, encouraging and open to those that do have a recovery journey. There's been a lot of initiatives happen overseas that talk about recovery inclusive cities, and it's where things like the DCC, etc., would look at pathways for people into employment or changing that. Actually, they have more non-alcoholic options, or don't always have alcohol-fueled events, alcohol present at events and things. So it's just more aware of actually, where people that don't do so well in our society. But
It really is everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It really is. And, more of a community, supportive type community. And
Well, we're going to add that to the list. And we'll be asking for them to make contact and explore how that might work. I really appreciate that angle. I think that's beautiful. Debs, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience about Mirror Services? How can they access your services perhaps, and where they can find you?
Yeah, so, we're just put on Mirror Services into the website, you'll find us. And we are based in Princess Street, just up from the Octagon. We're pretty accessible. We're not able to have self-referrals for our counselling service, our generic counselling service that we have for our addiction service. So we want that easy in, easy out, easy back in if needed. So that's where you can find me. I'm heading overseas in a few weeks to the Netherlands for what's called a global leadership exchange. So the Ministry of Health would gratefully supported me in being able to go off and do that. So it's a exchange with other children youth services and other representatives from around the globe, and then a conference for the second part of that week. So it's very, very. It's always an awesome opportunity because we talk about these grab bag and steal sort of what you can take from it and what's really easily implementable here, what we can implement here. And we've been able to, over the years, I've been involved since about 2007 or so and done some amazing exchanges, but we've been able to just absolutely utilise what it is we learn when we go to other countries. And it's a bit like when they sent men to the moon. I think what we learned about was more about the Earth rather than the moon, So it's a bit like that. We can go off and see other places, see how they work. We can glean some of those things from them. But that time away gives us a chance to look at what it is we can be doing differently as well. And we've got a long way to go in mental health. We're not there yet. There's lots of improvements that need to happen to our system and the sector. I think with a bit of time, we can really make some traction and get some good improvements happening.
Well, I'm sure somebody has already said this to you, but thank you for being an ambassador for Ōtepoti Dunedin over there, representing our city and your organisation and our community. I think I'm proud that you're going over there to do that for us. So I'm sure there's many, many other people that are. Thank you so much for your time today, Debs. It's been an absolute honour.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Kia ora.